We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated, secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
What if I told you that creating anything meaningful in life requires something called the mindset of a builder? Today, we're going to look at how adopting this mindset can help us achieve our goals and create a life that's really meaningful for us in the long term. This is not just about instant gratification, this is about what's meaningful in the long game and how to stay motivated along the way. Today, we have with us John F. Dilworth, entrepreneur, author of 3 books, with the most recent being a collection of collections, Black American poetry. He was born in Georgia, is a world traveler, and his current project is actually turning his latest book into a film series. So, welcome, John. It's so good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lindsay. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've talked a lot about the importance of planning and, before building anything in our life, our work, our businesses, that the plan is the most crucial part. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, planning is one of those things that it often gets either one overlooked
Yeah.
or two it gets kind of taken for granted or underappreciated. But
Mhm.
a plan is vital to any undertaking, especially when it's something worth doing. Because most things worth doing. Um, the motive and the intention is really important, but then the execution is supported by really taking the time to be deliberate about how do I or how do we go about getting this done, and that's just something that I think is standard, and counting the costs is a part of planning as well. So yeah, I definitely would reinforce that at any point is you always need a plan if you want to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, if we don't have a plan on how to get there, how are we ever going to arrive, right?
Yeah, and and sometimes we hear these stories of people who may have achieved a moment of the spotlight or something like that, and sometimes their testimony or the way they present it may be that you know this wasn't my plan, and
Yeah, yeah.
and that can be that's a really good thing because God's plan is really greater than ours. But at the same time, we have to do our part, and if we don't want to just rely on luck or some blessing to fall out of the sky, um, our plan, even if it's not what it ultimately ends up being or,
Right.
or coming out that way, having one is being a good steward of what God has blessed you with, because it's like if you have a plan and you take the time out to do that, it shows your real um, passion. It shows your willingness to put forth the effort, even in the things that may be uncomfortable for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that, things don't always go exactly as we plan. But I like there's that essential piece of like, okay, we do have to plan to figure out where we want to go, but then sometimes we end up somewhere even better that we might have not, even thought of, but we wouldn't have gotten there without that initial thoughtfulness around where we were going.
Absolutely.
And you've also talked about, the importance of research and history. And you mentioned a book to me earlier on the John St. Bolingbroke's letters. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, and then talk about how the importance of understanding history and what's gone before us helps us in that planning process and being successful?
Yeah, yeah. I think anytime you're looking toward the future, right? The mindset is, kind of don't look back.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Now there is an application for that statement, don't look back, but in terms of planning, it's very important to look back because you learn from the mistakes of the past, whether it be
yeah,
your own past or the past of others. And in reading the book by John St. Bolingbroke, it was cool because it's called the study on or the letters and the usage and study of history. And so it was the title jumped out just because I enjoy history.
yeah.
But when I read the book, it was basically it broke down why knowing history is important, and it also talked about a few different kinds of people who study who pursue knowledge of history.
Mm.
And some people do it, like he was talking about, just so they can sound intelligent in conversations and
Yeah,
have the wit of that day. This was the 17th century when he was writing about it. And so it's like there is a genuine desire to understand what's happened before, but then there's
yeah.
also this thinking that, well, knowing history is kind of, superficially is just something that is associated with intelligence, and it
Mm,
is. But in planning, you you really have to understand that the histories or that the mistakes are repeats of the ones from the past, and that makes them avoidable. Because if it's happened before and it's been documented, and you fall for that trap or you fall for that gotcha, along the way,
yeah,
and if you fall for that because of lack of knowledge, that's that's pretty bad, right? But we don't know everything. But if
right.
you but if you fall for it because the knowledge was there at your fingertips
Yeah.
and you failed to engage with it, then that's a different thing altogether, and that's even worse.
Mhm.
So it's there at our fingertips. Whatever business you are pursuing, whatever path you're on, um, there could be components of it that are trailblazing and haven't been done before. But
Yeah.
uh, without a doubt, there's big parts of it that have been accomplished before or seen before or can be learned from someone else.
Yeah, and even as just as you're talking, I'm thinking about, like, there's other people we can learn from, right? Like the history of you know, our nation and our people or our industry or whichever. But then even I was just thinking, we can almost even just draw from the past of our own experiences. Like even just reflecting on ourselves of, like, how did I handle this in the past? What did I do that wasn't really helpful, and how can I adjust that in the future?
No doubt. Because have you ever, seen any of those statements or anything that said that talks about how successful people journal?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, personally, I do journal,
Yeah.
especially being a writer. It's
Yeah.
it's it's kind of second nature. I don't
Yeah.
journal heavily like some, but if you keep an account of what's happening in your journey, then your own journey becomes a history.
Mm,
And it's good for you and it's good for your legacy. If you have children or younger people in your family who are going to be, who are looking up to you, if you capture those things now, you're able to reflect back on them, learn from them, and kind of see the track of your progress. But at the same time, there's this uh, basically jewel that gets kind of created out of that process, which is a diary or a journal or something that you can use, but also others can use as well. and that's really important. That's where a collection of collections kind of came in. It was me just sharing these things that I had written over this 21-year period,
Yeah.
and wasn't really necessarily writing them for others all the time,
Mhm.
but being able to go back and take the thoughts and the expressions and the experiences from that era and look at them myself, and then also be able to um, share them with others.
Right. Yeah. I love that future aspect too of like, where is this going to be? What impact is this going to make, in the future? And then
Hmm.
as we look forward on like the things that we're creating and the goals that we have and the success we want to go achieve, you emphasize the importance of really envisioning that and like, getting into the visuals of, what's happening and what it is we desire. Why is that so important and how can we apply that?
Well, I think um, it's important for a number of reasons. Even if you go to the old cliche statements, like if you can see it, then you can. If you believe it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
When you can visualize just about anything, it's a very powerful. It's a very powerful thing if you are, especially when you are aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
Because when you've got this idea or this plan or whatever it is you want to do, sometimes you see it as like, oh, this is something else that I want to do. But then sometimes you see it as, and this is my dream. This is
Mm.
this is the way. This is my vision.
Yeah.
And when that occurs, when we're aware, it's extremely empowering because it creates a motivation for the seeing of the thing come to pass. Some things are just a pipe dream. I guess what makes something a pipe dream is if you really can't put yourself in that. You know,
Mm,
because if
okay.
you can put yourself in that moment, if you can put yourself in that place or that position, see yourself there, um, then it's possible. Now
Yeah,
if a pipe dream may be, I want to have $1 million one day, and you don't really have any shape around it, and you're not able to like transform yourself into that mentally, you know,
yeah,
because
yeah,
when you really see it, you can become that on the inside, even if externally it's not manifested yet. If you
yeah,
want to be the president of the United States one day, if you can begin to see yourself like campaigning, you know, going on, taking the inaugural oath,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
can see that, then it's without a doubt believable. So
yeah.
envisioning where you want to be is important for the motivation it gives you when you just know that it's real. Another extremely important piece of visualizing where you want to be or visualizing your goal or dream is tied back to what I like to call reverse engineering your dream.
Mhm.
And that's one of the collections that are, in the book,
Yeah,
because reverse engineering your dream means, we always think about in, our modern engineering feats, right? The iPhone. That's one of the coolest things that came about, and but then you look at Samsung as a competitor,
yeah,
and iPhone kind of blazed a trail in having just no physical keyboard, and
yeah,
this different kind of interface, this interactive, addictive, gadget.
yeah,
But when Samsung saw that, um, I'm pretty sure, they had somebody in the room with that device, and they said, "Hey, I want you to figure out how this works so that we can make one ourselves, and we'll
yeah,
customize it to our own, trappings, but
yeah,
we're gonna reverse engineer this thing."
yeah,
And that's how you then can build it,
mhm,
and you build it better even. But
yeah,
with ourselves, if we want to reverse engineer our dream, okay, let's go back to being the president of the United States. If that's the case, then reverse engineering your dream means starting from that point, seeing yourself at that point. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm taking the oath. And then one of the ways to do it visually is if you start, you know, my home begins to look like a graffiti dungeon or something because I write on walls, I write on windows. So let's just take a wall for example. You got
Yeah.
maybe a narrow wall.
Yeah.
You start at the top. My vision is, I am the president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Boom. And what you want to do is work your way backwards as
Mhm.
close to where you are right now in this moment as possible.
Yeah.
So in that, it may be I'm the president, but then right below I'm the president is um, election night was successful.
Mm.
Right below election night was successful may be um, our campaign achieved, $1 billion in fundraising.
Yeah.
Before $1 billion in fundraising, it may be nominated by somebody for
Mm.
president.
Yeah.
Before that, it may be express interest, be a senator. Before that, it may be get a degree in law. Before that, it may be make sure I pick the right college. Before that, you break
Yeah.
it down to wherever you are. If you're starting a
Mhm.
business, start with your business having a certain amount of revenue per year. Then you can break that all the way down to today, I need to get the slower Comcast so I can save that $50 because I need to achieve this next goal on my step.
Yeah.
But when you can break it down to where you are, change Comcast from being $100 a month to being $50 a month.
Yeah.
Then you have a actionable next step. But then once you look back at that wall and you see all the steps you made, you've got 20 actionable steps. You have a plan, your vision is supported by the plan, and you're able to track your progress because some people can't figure out where to. They say, okay, I know the first step. People
Yeah.
always say, just take the first step, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take the first step. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
What's the next step?
Yeah.
The third step. What comes after that? That's the part that you can work out when you reverse engineer your dream.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. And it's such a detailed and broken down example of like how we can really do that. And even something like that, example of a dream, that's a very like big and long-term dream. So to be able to break that down of like, okay, college and these different pieces, I think that's really cool. And you mentioned campaigning as one of the steps. So it's like I think too a lot of people will think about their dream in the sense of the final result, not necessarily like what you have to do along the way of like,
Mhm.
how do we like enjoy that journey, right? Of like,
Yeah.
how can we enjoy that process? And is that a dream where the process is something we'll enjoy?
hmm Yeah, yeah. I actually worked through that exercise, and in the book becoming a live show and all of that, it was a part of my reverse engineered dream. It was a part of the process that I'd use to be able to execute, and it worked
Yeah.
out well. And that wasn't the ultimate piece of it, but that was one of the rungs of the ladder. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. And then, kind of one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about today is this mindset of the builder versus the worker. So like as we work on all these like planning things, then we look at like our mindset, right? And like what does that look like to be able to make those plans happen versus just like, working or, being in the moment and things like that.
Yeah, the builder and mindset, builder and worker. Think about the process that we just worked through, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
In reverse engineering a dream. Reverse engineering a dream is a builder's activity, so to speak, because basically, if you think about starting, it's reverse in the process, but you're working your way to where you are, but you've got these steps that you stacked up along each other, and
Yeah.
as you compile them, you reach the top. And that's a lot of what a builder is going to do. They're going to have that plan, but at the same time, the builder is going to understand that the reward is may not be in the end, but it's not at the beginning. And I
Mm,
think that's the part that a lot of people who want to go from having the mindset of a worker to the mindset of a builder, that's one of the things that they have to overcome is the change in when, in layman terms, when you're going to get paid.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When do I get the money?
Yeah.
Because if you got a job, you go work, and at the end of the week, they give you the reward, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's not a long wait in terms of when we get the reward. But
Yeah.
as far as the builder, the builder knows, man, it may be 2 or 3 years before we actually go to market, or
Yeah.
this investment that I'm investing in, it may not mature for 8 years. But I'm building something that has a reward, but the reward comes later. And I'm enjoying the journey of building it. And that's also a part of the reward. So there
Yeah.
is instant gratification
Yeah.
in building,
Mhm.
but that instant gratification is different because for a builder, you get gratification from seeing that nail go into that board, or
Hmm.
you get gratification from seeing the roof go on the house.
Yeah.
Whereas a worker, they don't get gratification until they see their paycheck.
Right.
So there's so many joys along the way they aren't even participating in because the only thing that they're concerned with is the dollar amount at the end of the day. Also, what happens in the working mindset is you become more um, you can become focused on giving as little as possible.
Mm,
Um, and so, what I mean by that is, if you work for, let's just say you work for McDonald's, and you go to McDonald's every day, and you clock in, and you know that you're not going to be able to leave until a certain time. Throughout the day, you're looking at your watch, and you're like, when do I get to leave?
yeah.
And some even have the mindset of, how can I give as little of myself to this time window as possible? Because
Yeah.
all I really care about is that check at the end of the week.
Yeah.
And when you are in that mindset, it may feel cool at first. Oh, I got a job, they give me a check, and I'm
Yeah.
giving them very little of me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there are so many disadvantages because,
Right.
well, there's nothing wrong with employment. But what happens is when you feel that way, you start to feel trapped
Yeah.
because you don't want to go there anymore. You
Yeah.
wake up on Monday and you're, oh man, I've got to go back in here and do this again. When you're
Mhm.
a builder, every day is progress. So you wake up and say, man, the guys are delivering the PVC pipes today, and
Yeah.
they're getting installed. Even
Yeah.
if I don't get paid, like
Yeah.
seeing those pipes go in is going to be great because that puts me closer to the vision, to the goal, to the dream.
Yeah.
And I think the builder gets so many more joys along the way, and potentially, and in most cases, a greater reward at the end if they're diligent.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I think that that builder mindset can be brought into really, I mean, we talked about this before, but any scenario, right? Whether it's, at home or even if you are employed by somebody else, going to work every day with that builder mindset of like, what are we building as an organization versus, oh, I just have to be here, I'm just clocking in and out, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So then as we look at, that this idea of being a builder and being or versus a worker, if we want to become a builder or, be great at building something, meaningful in our lives, I think a morning routine and, the ability to be productive can help us a lot. So how do we apply that and how can we start putting that into our own routines and lives?
Yeah, I think a morning routine is one of those little secret weapons, if you will.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
when you have a morning routine, you can you take the power of establishing for yourself what the day is going to be. That's one of the things I love about having a morning routine is I can set my own pace for the day. So I'll give you an example. Even without me trying, when I wake up in the morning and I start off with exercise, um, what happens is the metabolism of my body gets activated. And when it
Mm,
gets activated, it begins to actually burn, the stuff that it's using energy that it
yeah.
wouldn't have used if I would not have activated it. And once that energy starts, it's like turning on a car engine.
Yeah.
When you turn the car engine on, it's on and it doesn't go off until it either runs out of gas or you turn it off. So one of the things about starting my days with a little bit of exercise is it gets my engine going. It turns on the engine and it puts me in the driver's seat for the remainder of the day. So not only am I getting all of the things that happen without me trying, I'm also setting my mental space for the
Yeah.
day. One of the things that I do is, you know, when I wake up, I drink some water. I do a little 5 minute exercise. It's nothing long. It's just enough to activate, my system. But
Mhm.
you know, I also make sure that a portion of my morning is me thinking my own thoughts. This is prior to me engaging with my cell phone at all.
Yeah.
So I have an alarm that triggers. That's when it's okay for me to start using my cell phone. So
Okay.
so it's probably about a good hour and a half of the way my day starts
Yeah.
is I don't even have my cell phone,
Yeah.
you know, and I use that portion to establish my cadence for the day. And in doing that, um, I have seen in my own life results in terms of me being a more consistent person with everything. Because there's that old statement of how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes the way you do one thing, you don't like. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we say, man, I wish I did this differently. I wish I did that differently. And that was something I deliberately changed. I used to wake up
Mm.
in time for work. So I wake up, in time to get out of bed, get myself together, get
Yep.
out the door, or even working from home. I,
Yeah.
roll out of the bed and my computer's right there.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that about myself. And when I
Yeah.
started to work on that, there were all these other benefits that came along with having a routine. And consistency is key for everything. Um, one thing I'll add is, have you heard of the concept of to master something, you put in 10,000 hours?
Mhm. Yep.
So one of the things that I did was in my morning routine, I started going through every poem that I know, right? I would
Okay.
recite it
Yeah.
and wrote them, again, vandalizing my home, writing them on writing them on the wall.
Yeah.
But um, in doing that and making it a part of my daily routine, then let's say in that 10,000 hours, you know, uh, counter, I'm
Yeah.
working on it every day without
Yeah.
without me having to put myself too far out.
Right.
It's already in my day. It's in my routine. So let's say so part of what I do when I exercise is just I do a few push-ups. Well, if I'm doing a few push-ups every day, after the course of a year, it's like, man, you did thousands of push-ups this year.
Yeah.
Even though in that moment it didn't feel like as big of a sacrifice. But that's the beauty of having a routine. The consistency means every little piece that you put in, it's like going into a savings account.
Mhm.
It adds up over time. And so we can sometimes, in the developing of a routine, we can be discouraged sometimes because, let's say, for example, what you're trying to do is, I want to wake up every day at 6 a.m. And let's say you do it for 3 days, and then the fourth day you hit the snooze button a couple times, um, and then you let that throw you off. But don't
Mhm.
allow it to, because
Yeah.
it still got added to the savings account the 3 days that you did it. And
Yeah.
so if you keep that in mind, it helps you to go back and continue to work on it. You say, "Oh, I missed 2 days in a row, but I'm gonna try to get at least 3 days on." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
work at it. Don't think that a routine is going to happen overnight. It's like an addiction. When
Yeah.
you when you well, let me not say you, but when we're young people, right? And you know, I can remember being like maybe 16 years old, right? And you drink a piece of alcohol. You sneak, you go hide somewhere, and you and your buddies, you drink some alcohol, and you're just kind of being curious. That one sip of alcohol is probably not what will lead you to being addicted, or not lead. It won't trigger you in that moment to
Yeah.
be addicted to alcohol. It takes some repetition. Once
Yeah.
you do it again and you do it again, then eventually it becomes a part of second nature, and you have a beer every day after work.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the things that we actually desire, and sometimes we
Mhm.
don't want to give ourselves that space.
Yeah.
But if you want to, if you're trying to wake up at 6 every day, if you're trying to only drink one coffee in the morning per day or something like that, there may be times where you don't do it, but it's just because it's not all the way ingrained in your second nature yet. Just
Yeah.
stick with it. Just stick with it, because eventually it'll become a habit. Same
Mhm.
way the negative things do, the positive things do too. If you go for a run or a walk every morning or every afternoon, if you do that long enough, you'll find yourself like me. I'll be traveling or away on vacation, but I'm packing my running shoes because I just want to keep, it's like it's my body is wanting to do what I've deliberately created as a habit.
Yeah. Okay, so I really like this idea around consistency and building habits and morning routines as a savings account because I mean it goes back to the mindset of the builder, right? Because you're adding to the account, you know the long-term gain that you're going to get versus those of us who struggle with consistency or maybe some perfectionism of I missed a day, I'm out, right? I'm done. And like how much like obviously you're not going to, go in the right direction if you just quit and give up.
Hmm.
But but it's such a simple shift in the mindset that you're sharing, but I think that's so powerful, and, like, I even wanna use this in my own routines in building of, like, it's a savings account, right? If you missed a day, you just didn't put it in that day, and the next day you put it in again, right? Like, I think I love that kind
It
of
still has value, just like a savings account. If it doesn't have a high rate of return,
yeah,
you can put money in there. But if you don't keep putting money in there, then
yeah,
because of inflation, it loses value over time. So
right,
you still have something, but you've
yeah,
got to keep putting in, even if you miss sometimes. Um,
yeah,
for for me, here's a visual of that.
yeah,
So my here's my routine, my little workout routine
uh-huh,
is I do push-ups. I do two burnouts of push-ups. Okay,
uh-huh,
so I just do as many as I can once, do as many as I can again.
yep,
That's it. That's it. It
yeah,
lasts, it's very, very quick. Now do the same thing with pull-ups.
yeah,
That's it. It's over. But every day I write on my bathroom mirror window, how many push-ups and pull-ups I did. So if you look at my bathroom window, it literally has the days of the week, Monday to, I start my day with Monday. So Monday through Sunday is up there. And literally day for day, week for week, you can see the push-ups I did.
Yeah.
And there are many days on there where it's a blank, blank,
Mm.
because I got up and something happened, or for
Yeah.
some whatever reason, I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it's like, oh man, I gotta put this thing on, 0 on here,
Yeah.
but it motivates me. And
Yeah.
what I do is every time I have a new personal best, I write the number in a new color, in different
Oh,
color.
cool.
And so after the course of, like, as time goes by, months, and I literally and I take pictures when I run out of space. So I
Uh-huh.
can go back multiple years and show you,
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
myself that.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's days that are missed.
Mhm.
But when I go and add up all those push-ups and pull-ups,
Yeah.
thousands,
Yeah.
even if I miss days, if I were to stop and I were to say, man, I'm not really getting what I want out of this. I'm not being consistent enough. Maybe I need to just try something different or stop trying to do this routine thing. Maybe it's not the way I am.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to if you just keep pushing, then you look back. I missed 90 days this year, but there were 365 of them in the year. And it's
Yeah.
like, wow, I literally did all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it adds up, and it counts, it matters. It goes into your bucket of your 10,000 hours. It didn't say the 10,000 hours had to be consecutive. It
Right.
goes into your bucket of giving. Some
Yeah.
people have a mindset of how they like tithe their time or resources or things like that.
Mhm.
It also goes into what you're sacrificing, because for me, it's also spiritual in that I'm doing it to show God that I'm putting Him first.
Mm.
When I'm doing that time where I'm thinking my own thoughts, there's also meditation and prayer going on and things like that, to where I'm also putting God first in the day.
Mhm.
So there's many benefits to it, but it is an account, and God
Yeah.
doesn't say, "Oh, my child, you missed a day, so I'm done. I'm done with you." He
Yeah.
doesn't do that.
Yeah.
We do that to ourselves,
Yeah.
and we shouldn't.
Yeah. That is so powerful. Like, truly, I think just recognizing the power of not giving up, because like you miss that day and you don't stop. You keep going. And I think that's so important. And as we look at this mindset of being the builder and building that consistency and building our own savings account of whatever it is that's most important to us, whether it's our health or our work or a business or something that we're creating in our lives, you know, I think we can take that, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but we can take that mindset of the builder that you talk about and apply it, far beyond business and work and other aspects of our life. Do you want to talk a little bit about how we can do that as well?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you think about the mindset of a builder, it goes. So first of all, the way we're even phrasing this gives
Yeah.
you an indication of its pervasiveness, because we're saying the mindset of a builder.
Mm. Hmm.
So what we're really talking about is not a builder. We're talking about a mindset. A mindset can exist. It's not necessarily. It can exist outside of circumstance.
Yeah.
Like, let's say me, I consider myself to be an optimistic person. I think being optimistic is extremely important. So
Hmm.
I have an optimistic mindset.
Mm.
Even when something happens that's kind of jacked up,
Yeah.
um, I tend to still look at the bright side or see the
Yeah.
silver lining in that cloud. That's just
Hmm.
who I am.
Yeah.
But a mindset doesn't have to be fixed on one thing.
Mm. Okay.
That's the reason why the mindset of a builder applies outside of building scenarios.
Yeah.
You could be building a business, but a bodybuilder is building their body.
Yeah.
An ant is building a hill. Um, and there are so many different things that we build. When I read, I'm a big fan of reading. When I'm
Mhm.
reading, I'm building my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Um, when I travel, building the portfolio of peoples that I can relate with. Uh,
Yeah.
and so there's all kind of building that happens in our lives. And if we take the mindset of a builder, what happens is things are going to kind of build either way, with
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Question is, are you having any deliberate contribution to what's being built or the process?
Mhm.
If you take, let's say, I've got a really good friend who was able to escape civil war in Africa, right? But the young boys, some of the young boys that are in these that are caught up in these civil wars
Yeah.
are kind of forced to be soldiers or
Yeah.
fighters. And so what happens is a soldier is being built. Now
Mm.
that boy may not have any, he may not be contributing to, this is what I want to be. I want to be a
Yeah.
soldier, you know,
Right.
but he's still being built either way. Uh,
Mhm.
and so, all of us, they talk about being a product of your environment. We are, we are all being built. But the thing is that when you decide, I'm going to be the builder, people
Mm.
don't even think about that. A lot of us just go buy a house. They
Yeah.
just live in it,
Yeah.
or if you rent the house, you might even know what year it was built.
Yeah.
But when you decide, I'm going to be the builder of my own life, of my own marriage, of my own,
Yeah.
whatever it is, then you're now embracing that mindset. And that mindset applies to everything. It applies to everything, relationships, especially because when you think about the things you have to work on. Well, when you work on these things, that work that you're putting in could be building work, or it could be worker work. You know,
Yeah.
and so, like, even when you work on yourself, if you're just doing work, if you're doing worker work on yourself, then you're doing what society is telling you you need to do to be.
Yeah.
I'm working on myself so I can go and get a nicer car. Well, I'm working on myself. That's working.
Yeah.
But when you say, I'm changing my morning routine so that I can have a more prolific start to my day,
Mm.
that's building on yourself,
Yeah.
not working on yourself.
Yeah.
So even that mindset is internal and external. When you're developing who you are, if you're thinking like a builder, then you're working against the plan. What do How do I see myself? Go back to the vision. Go back. How do I see myself? And then you are using a builder's mindset because you're being deliberate about what is being built. And we have so many people today, especially our young people, who are being built, but
Mm.
they may be being built by social media, or they may be being built by their socioeconomic situation.
Yeah.
And we get a certain age where we start to say, wait a minute, I'm not going to be built. I'm going to build.
How empowering. I mean, I even just like got goosebumps when you're talking because this idea of taking the control back, that's what this is. Like, and I
Mhm,
and I love what you're saying about, we're being built either way. Things are being built no matter what. Things change and evolve in time. Are you going to get in and are you going to take action and be a part of it
mhm,
and
mhm.
be intentional and thoughtful, or are you going to sit on the sidelines and just go for the ride,
Yeah.
right?
Now, here's something that I think is also important in talking about the mindset of a builder,
Okay.
because a lot of times we're trying to build something and we see somebody else building the exact same thing we're trying to build. And we're like
Mhm.
comparing our situation
Mm,
to theirs.
yeah.
I want to, you know, own a restaurant. I want to build it. I want to start a restaurant. And then you see the folks on television and they got this new restaurant. It's booming. It's always packed. They're making money. They got the 100 scores on the health
Yeah.
inspections. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, and then you start saying, man, but those folks, they're a husband and wife. So, they got two people where I'm by myself.
Mm.
So that's why they succeeded at it. Or you may
Oh.
say, oh no, that guy, his father was a famous restaurateur from France. Man, this guy, he's got it. And then you hear this story. Somebody says, man, I built something from nothing. And you're like, I have nothing. That's me. If he could build something from nothing, I can build something from nothing.
Yeah.
But here's the pitfall in that.
Mhm.
I don't believe it's possible to build something from nothing unless you are God.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we can have a dream of something that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Let's go back to the iPhone.
Yeah.
Wow, this iPhone, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So I can say that the iPhone was built from nothing because it didn't exist before.
Yeah.
But the iPhone is composed of multiple components.
Yeah.
Screws and chips and screens and cases and power connectors and all these things that make the iPhone an iPhone.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, "Well, I had an idea and I built it from nothing," well, didn't you need like a screw or something?
Yeah.
You
Right. Yeah.
say, "Well, we grew up dirt poor, um, and we slept on the floor." Um, but I'm a successful business person now. I built something from nothing. When you slept on the floor, did you have your brothers and sisters were around you? You know, oh, you guys were all sleeping in the same room. Okay, well, that's a support system.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, there's something that it comes from.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll never hear me say, even though my parents weren't, successful business people, or, I didn't come from some pedigree, stock or whatever the case may be, but you'll never hear me say that I built something from nothing
Mm.
because there is no point ever in my existence that God has blessed me with a day to live where I could have said that I had nothing. Even if I didn't have the money to pay for the rent, or
Yeah.
how am I going to find something to eat?
Yeah.
But I still have something. I have breath in my lungs. I have, you know, the sun is shining and it's shining actually on me right now. I feel it on my skin. These things
Yeah.
are something.
Yeah.
And so wherever you are, whatever position you're in, whatever you're trying to build, if you look at the next person and you say, well, they had all the right tools, they had all the right resources. I'm starting my startup, I'm trying to raise $1 million. They try and do the same thing and they just raised $8 million with no problem because they plugged in, they connected, they this or they that. I don't want you to be discouraged because at the end of the day, we talked about not quitting. We talked about not giving up.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have something. The question is, are you going to take whatever you have and build something or not? If you're not, it's okay. But when you go around and you tell folks that you're doing things a certain way, it's
Yeah.
going to fall on deaf ears because, as the young folks will say, it's all cap.
Mm.
Are you willing to build? Somebody drop off a saw, some lumber, some nails. And you have been saying for the last 2 years that you wanted to build a deck on your house. Somebody came and they dropped off hammer, nails, and lumber in your front yard. Are you going to build, or are you going to now come up with some other reason? Oh, yeah. No, we all have some tools to work with. We all have some resources that God has blessed us with. We have to be appreciative enough to identify them and not overlook them. Man, we don't have nothing to eat in the house. There's a loaf of bread in there, and there's a little bit of peanut butter left. If you say you don't have anything to eat in the house,
Yeah.
because if you think you have nothing, then even though you got something, you'll behave as if you have nothing.
Yeah. That it's such a good call out to recognize what we already have and where we're at. And yes, it's true. We all have different starting points and we all have different advantages and disadvantages. But to say you have no advantages wouldn't be true because we all have tools and resources, like you said. So that's super good. And I know even as we recognize, like, okay, I have the tools, I'm going to become a builder, all these things, I'm going to plan all of that, then we start working on our progress and our projects and where we want to go. We start to hit challenges and obstacles, right? How do we stay motivated through that? Like when things hit and it's like, oh, one more thing to set me back, one more thing. I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier with like, oh, I missed a day, should I keep going, right? But like, what about when you hit those big obstacles? How do you, keep yourself motivated to keep moving forward?
I think that probably is a good time for me to share a poem that
Yeah,
is more so the answer, or my
yeah,
answer anyway. Uh,
yeah.
and the poem is literally called "You Don't Lose Until You Quit."
Mm.
Okay, setbacks have come my way on this highway, but it's better than the low way. It's better than looking at my challenges and saying, no way. It's
Mm.
better than seeing opportunity and saying, I'll never make it through that doorway. I just can't settle for the sure way. There's no easy way on the hard road, but the hard road leads to high places. Though sometimes it might lead through wet tears onto dry faces. But I guess that's why hope leads to faith after experience leads to patience. And I must live as an example. Therefore, I cannot allow my dreams to be trampled. So when I'm faced with obstacles beyond my strength, God helps me overcome what I can't handle. He's my guiding light when these harsh winds blow out my candle. He's the foundation on which I stand while many others choose to sit. But maybe they give up because they don't know that you don't lose until you quit. It's not over until it's over. Just keep pushing and keep going. When it's raining and when it's snowing, when the earth is quaking and the ground is shaking, when your world is flooding and your heart is breaking, joy will come in the morning, no matter how long the sun is taking. Victory is sweet, but defeat produces a bitter blend. And the race is not given unto the swift, but he who endures until the end. For me, the danger of dying is more acceptable than the shame of giving in. I just hope that you're receiving the messages I'm trying to send. Because when I focus on my purpose, my passion takes over the fight. And yes, it's a heavy burden, but it's filled with so much light. It's filled with so much value. It's filled with so much worth. And we all have a purpose of our own that we've been carrying since birth. And that's the foundation on which I stand while many others choose to sit. But maybe they give up because they don't know that you don't lose until you quit. It's not over until it's over. Go on and revise that business plan. Stand up for what you believe. Be a real woman. Be a man. Keep applying to that job. Keep taking that test until you pass. Keep studying. Keep grinding. Keep refusing to settle for less. Keep focusing on your dreams. Keep working towards your goals, your dreams, because no excuses will be accepted. And failure is not an option. But don't listen to the naysayers because they want to see you stopping. They want to see you stooping to their low levels of expectation. but you are an achiever, a superseder of situation. And if these words are motivation, then I am your relation, not by blood, but by struggle, like faith and like foundation, on which we choose to stand while so many others choose to sit, because we know and understand that you don't lose until you quit.
Wow. I'm gonna listen to that on repeat.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's my answer. Like, I mean, that's what keeps me
Yeah.
going is
Yeah.
knowing that if I just keep on going,
Yeah.
keep on fighting, keep on waking up in the morning, do what I'm doing,
Yeah.
it's not over. So there's no victor named yet. There's no loser named yet.
Yeah.
I just got to keep on fighting this thing.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes. Yeah. I've had a mantra for myself for many years now that I can never fail if I never quit, if I never give up. And
Yep.
so that's just been my own, repeat in my own brain. So that I think that poem is just so resonant to that and such a good reminder that, like you said, it's not over till you quit. Because that's the quickest way to end it all.
I shared that poem once in a social media post.
Uh-huh.
And that particular poem is one of my favorites to share because I think
Yeah.
it's the quintessential message
Yeah.
that is, on my life to share with others.
Yeah.
But I had a person make a pretty interesting comment where they kind of were saying that doesn't make sense, you know. And I enjoy I like the comment because
Yeah.
it highlights the fact that you've got to, in order to build, there are some limitations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's permits,
Mhm. Yeah.
what somebody else is going to let you do or not.
Yeah.
But in building, that's a part of the process. You get a
Yeah.
permit.
Yeah.
Um, there are other parts of the building process that just because you're building doesn't mean it's going to come up.
Right.
So that's why, have you ever seen a development? It could be a residential or a commercial real estate development where the builder ran out of money.
Mm,
And so
mhm.
you see like, maybe partially built houses or
Yeah.
something that's incomplete.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of what it looks like
Yeah.
to quit.
Mhm.
Now, in some of these cases, the builder may run out of money, but that builder may say, I'm not quitting. And we may pass by it for like 8 months and it's
Yeah.
just looking like unfinished. Oh man, that's not going to be anything until somebody else comes and buys it and
Yeah.
finishes. But there are builders who may have gone through that and
Yeah.
said, I am not going to give up. And even after it's sitting there dormant for 8 months, they finally figure out a way to get the boots back on the ground.
Mhm.
Okay. So yes, there is a such thing as the permits, the parameters, the
Mhm.
somebody else saying, ding ding ding, you win, you lose.
Mhm.
But we can escape that mindset. A part of we don't have to accept somebody else's ringing of our bell,
Yeah.
right? So I saw uh, Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks, and he was in a press conference, and they were saying, "Well, since you lost, do you consider this basketball season to be a failure?" You know what I mean? And his answer was brilliant in that no, this is all building towards something. All of it counts. You know what I mean? All of it
Yeah.
counts. And just because we lost the game does not mean we lost.
Right.
But it takes a very free and powerful mind to think that way.
Right.
So to say you don't lose until you quit, the actual statement is a liberating statement for your mind
Yeah.
to help you to say, there's not a other person out here who says when I win or lose. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no, even though it feels like a time clock. Some
Yeah.
ladies may say, "Man, I'm 39 years old and I haven't had a child yet. It's not going to happen for me." You don't lose until you quit. So if that's what you feel, maybe so, right? But
Right.
that doesn't mean that you will never have a child. You
Right.
may adopt a child. You may
Yeah.
foster like a bunch of different children and have that impact on their lives. You
Yeah.
may have a natural birth without even expecting it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But when you keep, when you declare defeat on yourself, that's when it's over. That's another way,
Yeah.
when you quit, when you say, "Oh, you know what? I give up." Then we can name a victor and we can
Yeah.
name a loser. But if it's not over, if you're still fighting, it's still going. It's still going. And you aren't limited to anybody else's perceptions of what winning is. You define it for yourself.
Yeah. Like that long-term vision of, you know, success or quote failure.
Yeah, yeah. I can flip a coin and uh, call it a game. I can say it's going to be heads. I flip it, it lands on tails. I lost that particular round,
Right.
but if I keep going, I'm going to have some wins. I'm going to have some losses.
Yes.
But along the way, I keep going because the tally is not going to be counted until I stop.
Right.
We
So
used to have a game called Get Like Me. I don't know if you ever heard of this. This is a game that I think I may have brought from the South Side with me. When I was young, I was in a program called Minority to Majority, where they brought high school kids from the South Side of town. I was from College Park, and they go up to Roswell, which was where all the in our mind rich kids were,
mm,
and they didn't care about our education, so they let us just gamble or whatever. We just did different. But we had a game where you take a quarter, and basically it's very simple. It may represent $1, but you flip it at the same time against the wall, and whoever is who it's on, if you match me, I lose. If you don't match me, you lose. And the
okay.
game was called Get Like Me. But there was always this contentious part that comes up, right? So you're gambling, and the person who's losing is probably like, "Hey, man, I want to go again. Give me another chance."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so there's kind of like an etiquette in that. Well, if the person
Mm,
is still going, I'm going to honor, their request to go again, right?
yeah.
And it's like, oh man, the person, until somebody just has zero left, right? Maybe if
Yeah.
somebody has zero, okay, then it's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
But if the person is still, even if they're down, people in Vegas do this and it doesn't work out. But just because you're down doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't
Right.
mean it's over. And I think that it's so easy to feel like it is, but it doesn't. But it's not over until you declare, um, I lost. And if that's
Yeah.
what you feel, then you're probably just not aware that the game ain't over yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so powerful. And I know as we look forward and look at your journey, you have the collection of collections, which is an incredible, I mean, really just like piece of art, right? Like it's a beautiful thing that you've created. And now you're looking at turning that into a film series. So
Yes.
before we wrap up today, I want to talk about that a little bit with you, just because I think that's super exciting and I can't wait to see what comes of that.
Oh man, it is exciting, and it's been such a interesting start to something new for me, right? Because
Yeah.
I am a poet, but that's not an entertainer I haven't always seen myself that way. I just try to
Yeah.
motivate people.
Yeah.
But going into the world of the film industry, I've had to learn so many things. Um, I've started to build new relationships that are important for that space. But we're
Yeah.
taking the desire to express, to share perspective, to understand one another, and the same themes, such as those that are about bringing people together.
Yeah.
Um, those same themes are carried over into us converting a collection of collections, Black American poetry, into a show called Black American Poetry. And we've began to film. We're fundraising, all these things that are just key to actually being able to, get this to the people who I believe will benefit from hearing and seeing what we're putting together. Because at the end of the day, it is motivation for the masses. For me,
Yes.
motivation for the masses is what I'm all about in my life because I want to motivate people. And I think
Yeah.
if I can take it to film, I can start to say that I'm working towards motivating the masses because, books, the medium does reach a lot of people. But in today's world, if you can visually engage
Yeah.
and tell a story, I think it has a significant impact. And that's what we're out to do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm super excited to continue to watch that unfold and celebrate you along the way. And as we wrap up this episode, what would you say? I mean, you have shared so many incredible pieces of wisdom with us and such great insights. What would you say anyone listening, the one thing or the one practical tip that you want them to walk away with or where they should start? What would that be?
I would say if you're going to walk away with anything, walk away with you have something to build with, even
Mm,
the intangibles.
yeah.
You have something. If it's even if it's your desire to serve, if it's your desire to help, if it's your desire to do, you have something. And I don't want anyone to watch this and walk away feeling like I want to be a builder, but I don't have anything to build with, to start building with.
Yeah.
If you want to be a builder, then all you need to do is start thinking like a builder and start itemizing what you have to work with. Look within yourself. Look within look within your surroundings and find the things that God has blessed you with. And once you itemize what you have to work with, even if it's not a long list, it may be I have 10 fingers, I've got 10 toes, and I've got a voice.
Mm.
That's something. And you can build with that.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for everything you've shared today. Thank you for being here with us and, sharing everything you have. Thank you for continuing to put out into the world what you believe will inspire and motivate and just make this world a better place than we found it. So, I'm so grateful for this and for your time today.
I'm grateful as well. Thank you for inviting me to be with you in this way because it is hopefully enriching for others, but for sure for me, it's been really enriching to reinforce some of these things.
Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world. And as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.